Hey guys, Jason here, and
Monica.
so you guys finally got your wish. Monica's here in our video, and she is 38 weeks pregnant, as you can see. So, in this video, guys, we're going to be talking about something that's really important to us. It's something that we have been trying to get done over the last year now, and we finally accomplished it back in January of this year, and that is getting rid of $128,000 worth of debt. So Monica's gonna help me go over some of the tips that we used to get rid of our debt and why you guys might be able to use it too. Okay? So being in debt is one of the most awful feelings in the world. Up until last year, Monica and I had a debt total of over $128,000. The pandemic caused us to reevaluate our financial situation. We could no longer travel, unemployment hit record highs, and many of our friends were either being furloughed from work, getting their hours cut, or having their wages slashed by up to 20%. That was a moment of us having to reevaluate what we were doing with our lives. It was at that point where we realized we needed to get out of debt and fast. So in this video, we're going to talk about what steps we took to pay off over $128,000 of debt in just under a year with a hybrid of the emergency fund. Then we're going to give you guys some emergency fund saving tips that we use to get to our goal faster and how you might be able to use it too to help you on your journey to debt free. We're going to talk about what an emergency fund is, what you want to use it for, and why we used a hybrid of this emergency fund to pay off our debt. An emergency fund is money you set aside, and by set aside, we mean in a separate savings account, in order to pay for true emergencies you may run into in the future. Some emergency funds may include a boiler, furnace, washing machine, a roof needing repair or replacement, a car unexpectedly breaking down on you, a sudden loss of employment, or an unexpected illness or death in the family. An emergency fund helps keep your stress level down so that you don't have to worry when an unexpected emergency or event occurs in your life. By putting the money in a separate account, it also helps you keep from spending on a whim. And lastly, it keeps you from making bad financial decisions because you no longer have to use borrowed money as an option to pay for an emergency. At the beginning of the pandemic, we knew that we had to save money in case we lost our jobs. But we also knew that we needed to get rid of our debt, so we decided to try and tackle both at the same time. Dave Ramsey says in his 7 baby steps that your first step should be to save $1,000. And that's what we did. We moved $1,000 into a Wealthfront savings account. Next, he says in baby step 2 that you should pay off your debts from smallest to biggest. We decided to pay off our debts from highest to lowest, but instead of paying the debts bi-weekly or monthly, we began to throw our money into another savings account until we had enough money in there to pay off the total amount on an individual account. We did this because it gave us a sense of security, knowing that if one of us or both of us ended up losing our jobs, we could use that money to fall back on and treat it like an emergency fund, which is why we call it the hybrid emergency fund. We continued this process one after another until we were able to pay off the total amount in boluses for all of our indebted accounts. Okay guys, so in order to give you a better understanding of how we paid off all of this debt, we're gonna dive into our laptop and I'm gonna show you guys step by step exactly how we paid off our debt on a month by month basis. Okay, so looking at our numbers here, we started off the last year in January of 2020, and the last payment we made was in January of 2021 on our last debt payment. Okay, so if you look here, the first column is going to show a SoFi loan. This was a loan that we ended up taking out of $70,000 to put a down payment on our house, which is something that I would never recommend. But we were in a hurry to purchase this house as quickly as possible because all of the houses we kept looking at the time were being sold one after another for much higher than we initially anticipated. At the time when we were looking for homes, we saved up to, I think it was around $30,000, but we needed $70,000 for our down payment on the house, which is why we ended up taking out this loan.
I think we were also just sick of renting. We just wanted a house.
Yeah, that's true. We were
where
waiting.
Our monthly payments would go into something that we own,
Yeah,
rather than rent.
that's true. I mean, we were really desperate at the time to just buy a house and stop renting. But again, I would not recommend that anybody borrow money for a down payment. The best thing you can do, like we did last year, is just pick up some hours at work so that you can save up enough to be able to purchase a house and put a down payment with your own money. Okay, but our monthly payment for this loan was $1,436.17. And we were paying that every month up until we realized that in April, we weren't getting enough hours at work. People were getting their hours cut. We had some friends that were getting their salary slashed by like 20%.
You know, the unit that I worked in was actually closed down for the whole entire month. So I was floating to other units.
Yeah, that's true. And Monica was not getting enough hours. I think I told you guys that she's a per diem nurse. So, you know, she goes based on availability of hours. If they don't have any hours available for her, they're not going to give her any shifts. So there was a point in time when I think she only had like 2 days that she worked in one pay period. And that's extremely rare for her.
I think that was just one pay period in the whole entire year.
Yeah. And during that time, I was not picking up any overtime, but I did ask a couple of coworkers if they wanted me to pick up shifts for them, and that's something that I did do. So at this point, we realized, you know, we need to start saving money and start paying off our debts just in case we both lose our jobs. So from this moment on, we started saving as much money as we could, and I think we were saving around $5,000 to $6,000 a month minimum. And we were putting that away in that Wealthfront savings account. We also had an Ally savings account. We were putting some money there too. And we kept putting that money away month after month after month after month. We were not touching it until October 2020 hit. At that point, we had $34,000 saved. So we used that $34,000. And like I said, we felt pretty secure at this point, knowing that we were not going to lose our jobs because the pandemic started picking up. There were more patients coming into the hospital, and they started giving us more overtime hours. Monica was picking up so many hours. She was picking up like 10 shifts straight every pay period. And that's why we were able to save up so much money to pay off this $34,000. And then here comes the Volvo loan. We have a Volvo XC90, and I know, guys, this is an insane amount of money. $1,270.41. That's how much we were paying on a monthly basis for our Volvo XC90. And I mean, initially when we got this car, we thought it was a huge mistake. You know, I mean, I remember Monica telling me, I don't know why you bought this car.
Is that really a lot? Some people pay that much for a Tesla.
That is a lot of money. Yeah, the average car payment on a car in the US, I think, is like $300 or $400. Yeah, it's way lower than what we were paying. So every month, you know, we were paying the same amount up until we paid off the SoFi loan. When we paid off the SoFi loan, we no longer had this payment of $1,436.17. So we added that to the amount we were already saving. So we were saving about $7,000 a month, $7,000 to $8,000 a month at this point. And within 2 months, actually it was on December 24th. Yeah, December 24th, 2020, we were able to save up $20,000.03 to pay off the remaining balance on this Volvo loan.
That was a Christmas present to ourselves.
It really was. I mean, think about it, guys. To get rid of all of this debt and then 2 months later, get rid of all of that debt, we were able to knock down $1,436, then $1,270 per month that we no longer had to pay for. Okay, so then moving on, the next month we were able to pay off the remaining balance on our Navient loan, which was $7,003.43. That was Monica's student loans. And when we first got those loans, we were paying large amounts on a monthly basis, but then we ended up moving to California, so we kind of had to put that on hold. We decided not to do that when the pandemic hit, which is why we were like, you know what? Let's just pay all of it at once. And the reason why you see $0 payments over here is because the government put these loans on deferments. We did not have to pay these loans. And even now, they've extended it up to September. So those loans did not have to be paid until the end of this year. But we decided to just get rid of them. And I know Biden is talking about, you know, paying off up to $50,000 of student loans. And I kind of regret paying this $7,000 off too early. But I'm glad that we did because we just got it out of the way. The next thing we have here is another student loan, and this one was my student loan, and it was a smaller amount, but we were also able to pay that one off in January. We paid that one off actually on the 19th of 2021. Okay, and that one was a total of $14.56 and 94 cents. Then on the right hand side here, this I just added to the total amount of debt that we have because it's mortgage payments that we were paying that add up to the total amount of debt that we paid off. So we had a Freedom mortgage loan that we took out. That was a mixture of a conventional loan along with this HELOC that we have here. Okay, so our monthly payment on that one was $2,323.92. And the reason why you see zero after July of last year is because we actually refinanced our home. And when we refinanced, we had no payments up until August of 2020. And that's when we actually ended up saving about $400 a month because we refinanced our home. Our payment went from $23.23 and 92 cents to $19.58 and 24 cents. And lastly, you have the HELOC here, which we still pay to this day. It's a home equity line of credit. That one, the average payment is about $932.89. So when you add all of these debts up for 1 year, 2020 to 2021, the total payment of debts was $128,461.86. On a monthly basis, we're actually able to save an extra $2,933.04 because we got rid of all of that debt. And that is in addition to the $6,000 to $7,000 we were already saving to pay off all of this debt. So you can see how valuable and how much of a significant difference paying off debt means to our lives and can mean to your lives. We currently have about $25,000 saved up. All right, so now that we've gotten this out of the way, let's talk about some of the tips we use to get rid of all of this debt and how you might be able to use it too. Tip number 1, you guys need to put your travel goals on hold.
Or choose budget-friendly traveling.
And by budget-friendly traveling, we mean go to places that are domestic within your country. One example I can give you is we went to Mexico last year at the end of the year when we paid off the SoFi loan for $34,000. So we decided to go to Mexico because we knew Mexico was affordable. The food is cheap, the lodging is cheap, and even the traveling was cheap. Just getting there was cheaper. You know, the plane ticket was something like $300 versus another trip that we took before the pandemic, which was to
Morea, French Polynesia.
And that was extremely expensive. I would not recommend it unless you've saved up a lot of money over time. But it was one of the most memorable trips we've taken. Okay, so let's move on to the next tip, which is meal prep. Try to eat food that you cook at home. Bring it with you to work. Don't buy food at restaurants, fast food places, because you're not gonna save money that way. You're gonna end up spending way more per week, per month than you normally would had you prepared that meal beforehand.
Tip number 3, cut out unneeded subscription or link up with family members and use their subscription. This is the part where you can mooch off of your family.
Another thing we did was that we cut Donica's piano and gymnastics classes. Well, I mean, we had to with the gymnastics classes because indoor activities were no longer allowed during the pandemic. But another tip that we can give you is tip number 4, and that is workout at home. We decided to purchase some workout equipment so we can work out from home. And I know that the gyms were closed and we still wanted to work out. So one thing we did was we set up the equipment in our garage, and I was just able to work out whenever I felt like it. It was much more convenient, and I didn't have to pay for the membership at the time because of that. Okay, so that's one way you can cut some unnecessary expenses off your budget. Okay, so moving on to the next tip.
Tip number 5, instead of going to the salon, learn how to do these services yourself. For instance, I do my own nails, and while I'm pregnant, Jason does my toenails.
I know. I do her nails for her.
I
Even
can't-
before she was pregnant, I was doing her nails.
I can't bend to, do my toenails.
And that's also because I'm really cheap. I don't want her paying for them.
I never get my toenails done though.
That's true. That's true. And during the beginning of the pandemic, when all of the barbershops were closed, I was cutting my own hair. And something you guys might not know about me is that I used to be a barber, so I do know how to cut hair, but it's much more difficult when you're cutting your own hair.
That's
So I
right.
kind of butchered the back a little bit every single time I cut my hair because I couldn't see it that well. But I still did it, and I still want to work like that, even though I always want a fresh haircut. I sacrificed some of my needs a little bit, and I still went to work looking like I had a butchered up haircut just so that we could save some money.
But it's okay. Everybody looked really
That's
butchered at
true.
that time.
Yeah, that's true. Some of my coworkers were begging me to cut their hair. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. Okay, so tip number 6. All right, so tip number 6 is
Oh, I like this one.
Okay.
Work as much OT as possible. As per Dave Ramsey, your most powerful wealth building tool is your income.
that's right. So, as I mentioned before to you guys, Monica works so much overtime. She was working up until just a few weeks ago. I mean, she's 38 weeks pregnant, going on 39, and she was working 10 days straight every pay period so we can pay off all of this debt. And at this point, we're actually saving money at a rate that we never used to save at before.
But
yeah.
unfortunately, this doesn't apply to everyone because not everybody loves their job. So I guess I'm just
Like me.
I guess I'm just fortunate.
That's true. I mean, she really does love her job. And like I told you guys before, I don't absolutely dislike my job. I just hate working. And Monica knows that. I've always hated working. Okay, so let's move on to tip number 7. Okay, tip number 7 is you have to pick up work on your days off. And what I mean by that is if they're not offering overtime, then come in on your days off. That's one thing that I truly hate doing. I don't like sacrificing my time off to go to work. But we did it when we owed all of this money because we wanted to get rid of this debt, and they were not offering overtime at the beginning of the pandemic because they were cutting everybody's hours.
But you know, it's not forever. It's not something you need to do for the rest of your life, you know?
That's true. I mean, we did it for 1 year. And to be honest with you guys, we started in April, almost May actually, of 2020. And that's when we really started working extra hours, picking up shifts, picking up overtime. You know, sacrificing some of the things we normally would have done. We weren't going on vacation because of the pandemic. So from April, May to January 2021 is when we really worked hard to pay off all of this debt and save money. So it's not a forever thing. You're not going to be doing this forever. It's only temporary. All right. So let's move on to tip number 8. Tip number 8 is to use the most gas efficient vehicle in your household in the most economical way. So Monica drives the SUV to her work, which is closer to home, and I drive our tiny Chevy Spark, which is a bit farther away to my job. And if you have an electric vehicle like a Tesla, make sure that you charge it during off-peak hours because you're going to save a lot more money on the electric bill than you would have had you charged it during the day.
Tip number 9, refinance your mortgage if it saves you money.
Yeah, we were able to save close to $400 like I showed you guys in our spreadsheet by refinancing our mortgage last year. So if you can find a rate that's going to be beneficial to you guys and it's going to allow you to save more money at the end of the month, then go ahead and refinance your mortgage. All right, lastly is tip number 10. Use your credit card to pay your bills, assuming you are not charged the fee by the company for using your credit card, and buy groceries to earn cash back. We earned over $800 in cash back last year by doing so. Always pay your credit card bill with the money from your checking account immediately after the transaction is made to get it out of the way and avoid paying any interest on the credit card.
Interestingly enough, Dave Ramsey's so against credit cards.
He is against credit cards,
Yeah.
and that's why we don't follow Dave Ramsey's steps to the T. I mean,
But I
you
think
guys,
it's also safer to use a credit card. Look at what happened.
that's true. At least with credit cards, you can get extended warranties, and you're actually protected against fraud when you use a credit card. Because you can always do a chargeback, you can always contact the credit card company, and they can always get your money back. Whereas if you're using a debit card and somebody steals your debit information and uses your debit card to purchase something, you might not be able to get that money back. So with a credit card, you're always protected.
Tip number 11, if you can't pay it in cash, you cannot afford it.
Yeah, I know there's services out there like Affirm, Klarna, and Afterpay. Do not use those services if you cannot afford to pay for an item. So that's our last tip.
Cash is king.
I know, right?
guys, supposedly.
You know, guys, as we began paying off all these debts one by one, it gave us even more motivation to work harder to pay them off. And it was shocking for us to see that we actually paid off over $128,000, over half of our 2020 income. So, let us know in the comments below how much debt you have, what steps you're taking to pay it off, and how long it's gonna take you to pay it off. And if you like this video, feel free to leave a like or comment in the comment section below. And with that said, see you guys on the next one.
Oh Lord, I think you need to lube up this seat because it keeps farting.
That's it.